Hello Glamours and welcome back to my channel, and if you are new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. Now don't forget to click on the subscribe button and that notification bell for more upcoming DIY future videos. For this Instagram request, I was asked to recreate or use as my inspiration this hanging sconces using my own technique and style, and I made a clock. If you would like to find out what I created, just continue watching. To start off, I'll be using chopping mats, and I'll be taking my measurements 2.5 inches wide, and then I'll be cutting them into strips. I'll have a complete list of all items used in the description bar below. For the remainder of this DIY, I'll be using my strongest glue sticks. Next, I took them by the ends and glued all three together. Next, I'll be using one 3D wire reform that I had on hand from a previous project that I never got to use. Next, I'll take my long strip and I'll wrap it around the wire, and then I'll glue it in place. Before I glue the wire in the center, I'll use two ribbon tubes to level out the wire so I might have it semi in the center, and then I'll start gluing it in place. I also use a 8-inch embroidery hoop that I had left over from a previous project, and this time I glued the strip inside instead of the outside so I have a smooth inside surface. And don't forget to follow me on my social media platforms. Next, I took the smaller hoop and I placed it in the center. Then I'll use my solder and iron pen and I'll make a hole right in the center, and I'll use a marker to make my markings, so I'll make another hole on the larger hoop. Next, I'll be using an 8-inch rod, and these metal rods are used to connect fabric shelves. Next, I'll take the metal rod and I'll slide it in both holes, but not completely through. Once I was done centering the smaller hoop, I took two large skewers that I had previously cut, and I'll start placing them for support. Once I was satisfied with my placement, I'll glue them in place. I added a third skewer for better support. Once I was done, I took it to a well-ventilated area and added 2 coats of metallic silver. Next, I took mirror reflection paper and I added to a foam board, and then I took my ruler with my X-Acto knife and I started cutting strips all the way down 1/4 inch apart. Keep in mind not to cut too deep or you'll end up splitting the board. Next, I'll start applying hot glue and then I'll start gluing it around the outer part of the base. Next, I'll be using two metallic silver table placemats. Next, I'll add 4 drops of glue to hold the placemat in place. Next, I'll start applying a generous amount of hot glue around the edges to hold the placemat in place. This step will help the placemat from unraveling when cutting in place. I use a wire cutter to start cutting around the inner edges. Once I was done with my cutting and before I glue on the second placemat, I'll be using blue remote LED fairy lights and I'll place them inside and hold them in place using mirror reflection tape. metallic silver paper straw that I have from a previous project, and I'll add glue an inch from the bottom, and I'll glue it inside and add extra glue, and this will be on the top part of the clock. Next, I'll be using 2 1/2-inch strips that I cut out from the chopping mats, and I'll be gluing them on the outer parts. I'll be folding it an inch back because I need access so when it's time to change the batteries. I'll be cutting the ends into a point and then I'll tuck it in, and now I'll have access to change the batteries on the fairy lights. Next, I'll start attaching my clock hands. Next, I'll apply 4 small gems. Next, it's time to attach both of my pieces together, and all I did was add a generous amount of hot glue inside the metal rod, and I took my clock and I placed it inside. Next, I took a single plain hanger chain and I spray painted metallic silver. I won't be needing the bottom attachment, so I removed it, and next I took a generous amount of hot glue and added it inside the metal rod, and then I took the chain and I started inserting it inside the metal rod, and I pushed it in by using a skewer. And here is the finished look. What can I say about this beautiful hanging clock? It's so chic, unique, and beautiful. And for you glam queens, this will be the perfect clock in that special room in your home. And let's not forget all the beautiful shimmering with the perfect lighting and sunlight. Here's the request and mine side by side. I love them both because they're both unique and different. But what do you think? Which one is your favorite? Leave a comment below. And what can I say about all the beautiful shimmering and lighting going on? And why did I use blue and white fairy lights, you may ask? It's because the person that I'm planning to give it as a holiday gift, her colors are silver, blue, and white. Here's another DIY project where I use the same placemats in gold to create beautiful wall sconces. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this DIY as much as I enjoy creating it. Now don't forget, I post new DIY videos every week. Like and share with family and friends. Subscribe if you haven't. Comment if you wish. Turn on your notification bells for more upcoming DIY future videos. I'll see you on my next DIY upload.